Hello everyone, I'm meteorologist Charlie Ironmonger. Thank you so much for joining me today for your 10 a.m. news and weather update from the First Alert Desk. Now, we've had quite a bit of rain over the past really about 14 days, and all of that rain is really starting to impact crops as we are again seeing large, lush corn stalks all across eastern North Carolina. Now, our very own Stephen Glover caught up with a few farmers about this year's promising corn crop so far. We'll see how, again, it compares to last year's. Here's Stephen Glover with more.
If you take a look to your left and take a look to your right while driving through Beaufort County, the corn crop looks promising.
So far, it looks great. Last year, you wouldn't see near this height.
Last year, farmers like Darren Armstrong were hit hard from too much rain in June and droughts in July, leaving many crops devastated.
A lot of times you hear people say it looks like a field of pineapples because of the pointy leaves and the way they stick up this year. You see the leaves are king some. They've got a nice deep green color.
But it wasn't just Beaufort County that saw a rough 2024.
We went from 140 bushel average the year before to last year a statewide average of only 40 bushels per acre. So devastating across the whole state.
With the recent rain, Beaufort County Extension Ag Director Rod Gerganis says even though corn crops are looking good right now, they're in trouble if there's more rain.
We're going to see some issues, I feel like. The longer this water stands in a field and the longer these plants, especially their root systems, are in saturated soil or underwater, the more potential for the plant to suffer.
Which wouldn't impact only farmers, but the entire community.
The county is depending on these dollars from these bushels sold to turn over in the county to help to drive the economy locally. This is a big part, big economic driver for the county.
And again, that was Stephen Glover reporting. We now want to turn our attention to the ongoing war between Israel and Iran as more strikes occurred overnight last night and earlier this morning. NBC's Richard Engel has more.
This is a residential area south of Tel Aviv that was hit by an Iranian ballistic missile a few days ago, but search and rescue operations are still underway here. At least 6 people were killed in the initial blast, which took out all of these apartment buildings and shaved off the entire side of this tall apartment building. And subsequently, at least 2 more bodies. The operations are still underway to search for more remains. Little hope that there were any survivors here. And this conflict could be reaching now a turning point, with the United States threatening to potentially get involved militarily. And while there are calls for de-escalation, China's President Xi says both sides should work to de-escalate the conflict. It doesn't seem to be heading in that direction. Iran's supreme leader saying that any strike by the U.S. from military bases will be met with a harsh response, that Iran is now in a position to continue attacking. He says that the blood of the Iranian martyrs will not be forgotten, and Israel made a huge mistake and, quote, will be punished. But despite those threats from the Iran supreme leader, apparently his response to President Trump's call for an absolute surrender, him clearly rejecting it, Iran's military capability is getting weaker by the day. We're not seeing as many incoming Iranian missile strikes as we did in the initial days. They are still firing salvos of missiles. They are still firing barrages every single day, often several times a day. But they are smaller than before, most of them being shot down. But if the U.S. does get involved, this conflict would reach a turning point.
Well, thank you very much, Richard, for that report. We now want to turn our attention to your weather forecast, where today it is a first alert weather day due to the heat that will be present throughout eastern North Carolina. Right now, that heat already present, but it's only going to get more pronounced as we head through the latter hours of the day, particularly the afternoon. Right now, we've got a lot of clear air over the Carolinas, even extending up through most of Virginia. That's only going to help bring in more heat. Air temperatures today expected to get into the mid-90s under mostly sunny skies. Some areas may stay in the low 90s. The closer you are to the water, the cooler you will be. Right now, along the Neuse River in New Bern, we've got 85-degree air temperature, but a southwesterly wind at 10 miles an hour. keeping humidity at least 73-degree point. And that makes it feel like 92 degrees out there. It is hot, it is humid, and it's going to stay that way through the next few days. Do want to say good morning to William Harris. Thank you so much for joining me over on Facebook. For those of you watching a little bit closer to the coast in Morehead City, this is what we've got through Sanitary Restaurant. The Gulls are having a great time, just cruising in the breeze. But again, mostly sunny skies to start your day. Will likely stay sunny through most of the day along the coast. Current air temperatures reading in the mid-80s throughout most of the east. We've got 83 degrees in Rocky Mount, Goldsboro, as well as Ahoskie. We've got 84 degrees through Kenansville, Kinston, Greenville, Manteo, Stumpy Point, Plymouth, and Manteo. And then we've got 85 degrees to Elizabeth City, Williamston, Washington, Swan Quarter, Oriental, and New Bern. It is warm no matter where you go, and humidity will remain high today. So as we see air temperatures reach into the low to mid 90s, it will likely feel like the triple digits because of that humidity. Now, a southwesterly wind is only going to keep that heat and humidity present in the east. Once we see those winds possibly swing around to the north and northwest, then yeah, we could see a little bit of a dip in humidity. But as you can see, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Certainly not going to happen today. Air temperatures will fall from the low to mid 90s at around 6 p.m. To around the low to mid 80s by the time we get to around 8 to 9 p.m. So it should be a fairly quick cool off later on tonight, but it won't get quite as cool as what I'm sure many of you may want. Now, we are keeping a very close eye on the frontal boundary that's set to roll across eastern North Carolina coming in Thursday evening to Thursday night. This is a picture by the time we get to around 9 o'clock on Thursday. And again, that cold front starting to make its way through eastern North Carolina. There will be a chance of some strong to severe storms along that frontal boundary as it rolls through, which is why tomorrow night will be a first alert weather night. After that, though, high pressure system takes over. You see that further back towards the west near Kansas. That's going to help keep the heat and the sunshine intact despite the cold front moving through. We're really not going to be cooling down all that much. Here's a look at your full 8-day forecast. We'll go from around 94 degrees on Thursday to 88 on Friday. So a 6-degree drop, but I think the overnight lows, that's where you have more of an impact with how it feels outside. Because the lower you can get your humidity, the easier it is to tolerate the low to mid 90s. When you have high humidity, not that much fun. When you have lower humidity, those low to mid 90s certainly feel just a touch more comfortable. Yeah, granted, it's still hot outside, but you're not sweating quite as much, and the sweat you're producing is a little bit more effective in cooling you down. Now, coming up through next week, we will maintain both heat and humidity Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and could end up adding Wednesday onto it. First alert weather days because of the heat and humidity combo. That's all we have time for today's 10 a.m. news and weather update from the First Alert Desk. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. We'll be back with more news and weather coming up at the top of the hour. Until then, I hope you all have a wonderful Wednesday.
This hour of the WITN First Alert Desk is sponsored by ENC Pirate Realty.